My name is Kristen with ICStarsQuilting.com. I share tips, tricks, and tutorials for the modern quilter. If you are interested in more videos like this, I post videos every single week. Make sure you click the subscribe button down below this video so you can be notified when I post new content. All month long, I am answering questions that I get in my inbox quite often from quilters just like you. And this one is a fun one for me, okay? So let's dive right into it. So the question that I'm going to answer today is this. It's actually a two-part question. One is, I don't know what level quilter I am, and that's important to know because on a lot of the patterns it'll say made for a beginner quilter or an intermediate quilter or an expert quilter, right? And if you don't know what level quilter you are and you're not really comfortable, then it's going to be hard for you to pick out a pattern. And the second part of that question is, how do you know when you're ready to go to that next level of quilting expertise, right? How do you know when you're ready? So I'm going to explain this really easy for you, okay? If you have been quilting for a little while and you're thinking, I don't really know what level quilter I am, I'm going to guess 8 times out of 10, you are a intermediate quilter. Because honestly, if you're a beginner quilter, you know you're a beginner quilter, okay? You know you don't know everything out there. You know that there's still so much out there for you to learn. As an intermediate quilter, you know there's still a lot out there for you to learn, but you still feel like you kind of got the basics down. You have an idea of what you're doing. You don't have to go and Google and YouTube every single step of the pattern, right? You don't have to ask questions every single step of the way. You got a little bit of knowledge in you. That, to me, is an intermediate quilter. You've got a few quilts under your belt. You're feeling really good about it. That's what I would say you are. Now, that's completely open to speculation depending on the level of quilting that you have done in the past and how your projects turn out, but you at least have the basics under you, okay? So knowledge-wise, you're an intermediate quilter. The next part of that is, how do you know when you are ready to switch to a more intricate pattern? When do you know that you're ready for the more advanced quilts out there, okay? Now, this is how I learned myself, okay? I was in a quilt shop and I see a gorgeous quilt hanging on the wall. It looks super intricate. There's tons of tiny little pieces to it, and I am just like jaw dropped. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I want to make that, okay? Now, you can go about it that way and go, I want to make that. I'm going to buy the pattern. I'm going to buy the fabric. And come hell or high water, I'm going to figure it out. Okay? That's also how you grow your skills really, really fast. Learn what frustrates you really, really quickly. And whether or not you have the willpower to finish a project like that. Okay? So that's one way to do it. But another tip is, patterns are probably part of the least expensive part of quilting, right? They're part of the least expensive part. You can get a pattern from anywhere from, I know there's tons of free ones online, but generally if you buy them in the quilt stores, they're like $8 to $15 or so for the pattern. Again, that's just a range, but that is a fairly low investment to try something new. I would suggest this. If you're really on the fence, but you really like this pattern, but you're not thinking that you're really up to it, go ahead and make a test block. Test blocks are one of my favorite ways to decide whether or not I really want to commit, okay? So like, I'm just testing this out. This is like a first date scenario with a quilt pattern, okay? You're making a test block. You're not gonna go out and buy like yards and yards of brand new fabric and rack up a bill that's hundreds of dollars and go full out commitment yet, right? You're gonna take your pattern home, just that one little investment, you're gonna take it home and you're going to pull out some of your scrap fabric or pull out some fabric that you already have and make a test block with it, okay? You're gonna follow the pattern instructions. You're gonna do things the right way. Make sure you are following exactly the way that they tell you, because you're trying this out. First date, you're asking questions, you're figuring things out, you're figuring out whether you like the person or not, right? Then after you make your test block, you can decide, Do I want to do this again? You might. If you don't, it's okay. You can either pass that pattern on to a friend, or you can see if somebody in your quilt group would rather buy it from you. You know, there's other things that you can do with it, but you haven't wasted a ton of time or a ton of money, and hopefully not a lot of frustration in doing everything and planning out an entire quilt only to find out that you don't like working on it. So I like to make test blocks a lot just to see whether or not I want to spend my time on that quilt pattern. I can admire things and want to make them my own, but I don't always want to take the months and months of my life to do a really, really complicated quilt pattern. I would much rather just look at it, admire it for the time and ingenuity that somebody else put into a quilt pattern, right? And that's okay. We can admire each other's works and be like, I wish I had the time to do that, and not actually follow through with it. You know, that's just part of admiring the craft. Now you might be asking, well, I don't want to make all these test blocks because what am I going to do with them? You could just keep your test blocks and eventually make a very scrappy quilt out of your test blocks. You could make things like table runners, or you could make things like wall hangings. You could make little additions to the backs of quilts. Something that incorporates the beautiful block that you made, but didn't take the time to make an entire quilt out of it, okay? So the next time you are at a quilt shop and you're looking at all of these gorgeous patterns or quilts, or you're scrolling through Pinterest and you're trying to find your next amazing quilt project and something catches your eye, but you're not quite sure if you're ready for it or not, I want you to kind of expand your imagination a little bit and decide, do I love it enough to try? Because I think that that is really the first step in expanding your quilt skills and expanding your ability to do harder and harder patterns, is the willingness to try something new, okay? And also not letting yourself have the guilt of, if it doesn't work out, it's okay. Right? It's okay. If you don't like it and you decide, this is way too hard for me, I don't want to do this, you know? That's okay. I have a video that is all about quilt guilt, and I'm going to put the link across the top of the screen here because I want you to watch it. If you are one of those people who are like, what is quilt guilt? Do I have quilt guilt? I might have quilt guilt. Watch that video. It's really helpful. It takes away the pressure of, this is a craft that we do for fun, and I want you to enjoy it. And you don't have to be the best of the best of the best. You don't have to have all these award-winning quilts, right? You can just do it because you enjoy it, and keep it as something that you enjoy. I hope that you are constantly on the lookout for ways to keep your quilts interesting, keep them fun, enjoy quilting. If you have any questions about your quilting as you're on your quilting journey, feel free to email me. I'd love to hear from you, or you can write down in the comments down below and I will get back with you. My name is Kristen with icystarsquilting.com, and I will talk to you about more modern quilting tips, tricks, and tutorials soon. Bye!